Welcome to our official album review for Tyler the Creator's new album, Chromakopia. This is his 8th studio album, his first in 3 years. And before we actually get into it, we did a full live album reaction to Chromakopia with our entire community on Patreon. If you guys want to access it, you guys could do so by hitting the link in the pinned comment or in our description. And just a disclaimer, I'm going to be doing this review solo today. Ant is still feeling under the weather. He got a bad case of strep throat, but he will be back and better soon. But let's get on with this review, starting off with the artist performance. And when it comes to Tyler with this album, over the last couple of projects, we've seen his artistry really develop and progress. And with this album, he is really showcasing his full range as both a singer and a rapper. Starting off with the intro saying Chroma, I think what was really interesting about what he did on this song in particular is that he had that knack to find a way to really sound quirky and different in terms of the performance, and you get that by him switching from line to line between this whispering cadence to his regular tone, which was really dope. Another highlight performance, or performances I should say, are more of the aggressive and I want to say more so energetic performances that you're finding on songs like Ratata, as well as I Thought I Was Dead. You're getting one confident flow after another, and every line just seems like it is filled with bravado. And speaking of I Thought I Was Dead, what's interesting about that track as well is that it seems like you're getting euphoria type of energy from Tyler in terms of one of the flows that he uses as well as his delivery. In terms of a more well-rounded performance, we could talk about the song Darling I, where you're getting more I would say layered auto crooning from Tyler the Creator on that track, but you're also getting smooth raps later on into the track, which was a nice blend. In terms of other dynamic performances, of course, we have to talk about the song Like Him, where he sings beautifully and doesn't really alter his pitch or process his vocals too much, and I feel like his raw vocals sounded really good on that track in particular. That being said, I think that there are still some negatives in terms of his performance on this album. One of them being Judge Judy, which is a hell of a freaky song. There's no denying that. I'm going to speak about the writing on this song in this category just because I don't feel like it plays too much into the overall concept, but it's essentially a song about Tyler meeting a girl at a cafe, striking a relationship with her, and Judy is very promiscuous, but he doesn't judge her, and the song ends with them having had a fling and Judy writing to Tyler that she is passing away from cancer. Pretty interesting love concept within the track. That being said, it's one of the worst choruses Tyler has ever given us. I feel like he's really overextending his vocals on that chorus. The singing overall is really awful in my opinion, which might be a hot take. But that being said, another track where I feel like the singing is a bit weak is at the very start of Tomorrow. That was another instance where you're not really getting as much auto-tune or pitch alteration like you got on Igor, but it's the raw vocals from Tyler. It's more of this high pitch that doesn't quite work, at least for me. Apart from that, I do want to mention his performance on Sticky, which was mediocre to me. I feel like his last verse was pretty solid, but that being said, it was another weak hook. This one kind of felt like a cliche TikTok baity hook. Didn't really do too much for me at all. But apart from that, I do want to talk about Tyler's ad-libs on this album because I do feel like that is one of the more underrated aspects to his artistry, at least on the last couple of albums from him. You're getting dog barks from him on here. You're getting woos. You're getting a bunch of different aspects that are really interesting, and I feel like he deserves more credit for that. And another performance that's really strong that I want to mention is, of course, Noid, where you're getting Tyler filling up space beautifully. One thing that Tyler is able to do in between verses and choruses is come up with these really creative bridges. And I love the oh na na a part of Noid. That was really nice. That was really well done. And I also love the suspense that he builds all throughout that track, even coming in with this more panicked delivery. That was really special. So overall, when it comes to the artist performance, I can't say that I was, mind blown by a lot of the performances. These are performances that feel familiar for Tyler. Looking at a Ratata, that's something that could have fit well on a Call Me If You Get Lost. Looking at Darling I, you can link that to something like Igor. So I do like the range of performances from Tyler, and they were solid for the most part. So I'm going to give it a great rating, but let's now go on to the content category. Tyler actually held a listening party for Chromakopia where he gave us an idea of where this album was going to go, talking about how it was inspired by his childhood experiences and lessons that his mother taught him as a kid that he ended up recontextualizing now as an adult. So I'm actually going to quote him from what he said at that show. He said, "This album kind of just turned into me taking a bunch of shit that my mom told me as a kid. Now that I'm 33, all that stuff is like, oh, that's what the fuck she was talking about. People are getting older, folks having families now, and all I got is a new Ferrari. Life is lifing, and I don't know. I just wanted to write about stuff I think about when I'm dolo." And he actually continues this idea on the song Tomorrow, where he has lyrics, "They sharing pictures of these moments, shit is really cute, and all I got is photos of my Rari and some silly suits." And interestingly enough, this made me think back to an old Kanye West lyric. If you go to the opening line of Welcome to Heartbreak, you have Kanye West rapping, "My friend showed me pictures of his kids, and all I could show him was pictures of my cribs." And I found this super interesting because Kanye West was 31 when he made 808s and Heartbreak, and Tyler is now at a similar age making Chromakopia at the age of 33. And they both seem to be at this crossroads in life where they're thinking about beyond the music, what's going to bring them fulfillment. And it sort of feels like almost this early midlife crisis that a lot of people tend to go through around this age. So I think it's a cool connection to make between Tyler and Kanye West for that moment. But when it comes to the overall theme of this album, I think the visuals play a big role. I think the visual for Saint Chroma gave me a better understanding of the overall message of the album. And of course, you have Tyler throughout all the visuals wearing this war general outfit. And in the actual Saint Chroma visual, you have Tyler leading these men into a crate. And all of these men are faceless. They're all following orders. And they're dimming their light by conforming and by not really embracing their own individualities. They're all walking into this crate, and what's interesting is that it's black and white until Tyler blows them up into that crate, and then we get to see color, and that represents, I think, that Tyler is a leader and that he's his own colonel. He is always going to be taking his own path in life and not conforming to societal expectations or what the people around him are doing. He is always going to play by his own rules, essentially. So I thought that was an interesting way to look at it. Apart from that, of course, we've always had narrators. Not always, but on many albums, we've had narrators in Tyler's music. And with this album, we have Bonita Smith, who is Tyler's mom, who serves as his guide as he's going through this personal journey. And she appears on every other song, and she'll sort of like set up what Tyler is going to delve into. And I think what's special about this album is that a lot of these tracks feel like these deep personal journal entries from Tyler. And when you go into songs like Noid, that's one of the main themes on the album is Tyler feeling paranoid. And what's interesting is that on Call Me If You Get Lost, he was basking in the spoils of the fame, and now he's looking at more of the negative effects of the fame and how he's having these weird encounters with fans and how he doesn't feel safe in his own home, which I find very interesting. And this isn't necessarily new territory for Tyler. You also had Colossus on Wolf, where he spoke about having weird interactions with fans and how awkward it made him feel and how he felt like his privacy was under attack. So interesting to see him approach it in a more intense way on this album. What's interesting, too, is that even when you look at some of the more love-themed songs like Darling I, you have Tyler reinforcing that there is a light within him, and that light is him being fulfilled by the music that he's making. He's like, even if I'm all alone, at least I'll have my Grammys to bring me comfort. And he's enforcing that idea that he's not really ready to commit or settle down. And that's a perfect leeway into the next song, Hey Jane, where he raps from his own perspective and from the perspective of the woman that he's impregnated, Jane in this case. So I love the perspective shifting. It's peak storytelling from Tyler, one of his best storytelling cuts ever. And I love how natural and how real and how compassionate Tyler is when he's speaking to Jane in this open letter format, telling her that he's going to respect whatever decision she makes, and he's going to support her all the way, with lines like, "Hey Jane, who am I to bitch and complain? You got to deal with all the mental and all the physical change, all the heaviest emotions and all the physical pain." I feel like that was very wise, even just to capture what her state of mind, what a woman's state of mind might be when there is this unplanned pregnancy. So genius writing from Tyler. Another song that I think is very important to talk about for the concept of the album is Take Your Mask Off, where Tyler is rapping to 4 different people through his 4 different verses. The first one is someone who is sort of like this fake thug who is trying too hard to be tough. The second person he's speaking to is actually a religious man who's hiding his sexuality. The third person is a mother who seems to have lost herself and really just hyper-focused her life on being a mother and losing her identity within that. And then the fourth verse is actually Tyler speaking to himself, because he was in all these people's shoes at one point where he wasn't really living his truth and he was living a lie, essentially. So very mature from Tyler to speak about people having to own their identity and not doing it in a very preachy way. I thought it was super well done, and yeah, it was really a special moment. On the song Tomorrow, we have Tyler reflecting about his future. He's talking about his mother's hair going gray. So he's talking about another big aspect of his personal state of mind in this current moment, which is him aging as well, and him wrestling with the idea of maybe wanting to have children in the future. Then another important track on this album, of course, is Like Him. And on this song, we've heard Tyler rap about his father's absence in his life on songs like Inglorious and Answer, but what's really special about this one is that it seems like he's finally getting closure on the situation, realizing that even without a father figure in my life, I was able to be the best version of myself and to achieve all of these goals that I set out for myself. And a really big plot twist within the whole story as well is his mother coming in on the song and admitting that she is almost the one to blame for Tyler's father not being part of his life because she pushed him away. So I think it was a beautiful way to close off this large motif that's been running throughout Tyler's catalog for the longest time. Again, just so much maturity sprinkled throughout every word of that track, and for us to finally get the answer of why the father wasn't part of the life is really interesting. On the outro, Tyler sums up a lot of the album's themes, talking about how he's a bit too self-obsessed to take on the responsibility of raising a child, and even admits that he almost actually did have a kid by mistake. Not 100% sure if that's accurate or not, but that's what he seems to be saying in the lyrics. And I do think this is Tyler's best written album to date. I think that it's his most vulnerable album. And I think that Tyler keeping this light inside of him is his pursuit to create and to, just act freely in life. And when you look at, like, a big question for me going into the album and a lot of other people was like, what's the meaning of Chromakopia, right? And chroma means color and copia means an abundance of. So the abundance of color, but color actually comes from light. So I think Chromakopia represents the abundance of light. And with Tyler, throughout this album, he's worried that by him taking on this role of being this family man, he is going to lose Chromakopia. He is maybe going to lose what he's worked so hard to obtain, being that colonel, being that leader. And on the outro, he admits that he's too self-centered to actually raise a child, but he leaves that door open. He says, you never know, maybe in the future, I will come back to this idea. And I love the fact that he doesn't actually reach a resolution by the end of this album. And it's so relatable that as much as we always want to have shit figured out in life, sometimes we just don't have the answer and we have to sort of live day by day. So as I said, Tyler truly evolved and progressed as a writer on this album. And for that reason, I think the content deserves an amazing rating. But let's now move on to the features on the album. It was very interesting because, as we know, Tyler is a massive troll, and he literally said, fuck features. He made us know that there wasn't going to be any features, and what do you know, as expected, there ended up being a bunch of hidden features sprinkled across this album. We have features that include Lil Wayne, Schoolboy Q, Childish Gambino, Doechii, Sexy Red, Glorilla, Daniel Caesar, Solange, Tizo Touchdown, Lola Young, and many more. I want to start talking about Daniel Caesar just because he was the MVP of features across this entire album, especially looking at what he did on Saint Chroma. Just absolutely full vocals, very epic sounding vocals. And I feel like his delivery on his ad-libs, just the vocal texture that he's using was very MJ-esque, in my opinion, on that song. And he really shined bright. Even looking at what he was able to accomplish on Take Your Mask Off, I just loved all of his blissful harmonies. So he really did a killer job, and I thought he fit really well on every track that he was a part of. Moving on, I want to talk about some of the more complementary features. For example, Willow, who had background vocals on Noid. That was a nice addition to the song. Even looking at what Santi Gold and Lola Young did on their respective tracks, they really blended in well with Tyler's vocals, in my opinion. Let's talk about Tizo Touchdown, who has some dope background vocals on Darling I, and then a really nice post-chorus on that track as well. I will say this, I do feel like we didn't need the second post-chorus from Tizo. I felt like it dragged a little bit on that song, so that was something how I viewed that track. Let's talk about Childish Gambino, though, on the song I Killed You. I love how delicate and fragile his vocals sound on that track. He absolutely nails the falsetto. Moving on, let's talk about Sticky, right? Because when it comes to Sticky, you have this big posse cut. You have Tyler, of course. Then you have Glorilla. You have Sexy Red. You have Lil Wayne. The first thing I want to say about this is that I do feel like all of their verses, were very short-lived. I would have liked to have heard longer verses from all of them. Like, for example, Lil Wayne's verse had a lot of potential. I thought he had the best rhymes on the track, but you only really get to hear him for a couple of lines. Speaking about Glorilla, her verse was fine. She's coming in with her usual Southern slang with a lot of energy. Didn't really do too much for me, and maybe that's because I'm not a big fan of the song, period. And I get it. It's a fun song, but I just don't feel like that song really contributed to the overall themes of the album, in my opinion, at least. When it comes to Sexy Red, I've heard her use that flow a million times before. Same with the lyrics. It just felt like a recycled verse to me, and a short one at that. So, again, I think the song did its job because a lot of people had a lot of fun with it. It's just not one that I'm personally going to be revisiting. Speaking about Schoolboy Q, I love what he did on I Thought I Was Dead. He brought a lot of energy, a lot of hype to that track. He finds the perfect pocket for that beat. And what's interesting, too, is that I like just what he's rapping about, you know, saying how even though he left his hood to go to Hollywood, there's a lot of things within Hollywood that he doesn't fuck with. So just cool, refreshing thoughts from Q on that verse. Really thought that was a good one. Next up, I want to talk about Doechii on Balloon. I will say this, it's not her finest hour rhyme-wise, but that being said, I thought she absolutely killed the feature, just in terms of the charisma that she brought onto that track and just how animated that she sounded. It was just great chemistry between herself and Tyler. So overall, when it comes to the features, I think that they all worked super well with Tyler. I do think that some of them were underutilized, and some of them played their part perfectly, especially when it came to a lot of the singers that provided background vocals. I don't think that these are some of the most memorable features we've ever heard in a Tyler record, but they definitely all play their part pretty well. So I'm going to give the features a great rating. But let's now move on to the production category. So this album was entirely produced and arranged by Tyler, the Creator, like all of his other albums, but he did receive some minor help when it came to certain tracks on production. For instance, Steve Lacy actually played the guitar on the song Judge Judy. You got Thundercat popping out with the bass on Noid, and you also got additional production by Jada Love on the song Balloon. And when it comes to the overall soundscape of this album, you are getting Tyler pulling from the soundscapes of his previous work. For example, you're getting a lot of synth soundscapes throughout the project. You're also getting Tyler going into some new territory. For example, on the song Noid, where you're getting this rap rock hybrid as Tyler samples this old Zambian rock band. And I have to say, I absolutely adore the Zambian vocal sample. I think that's one of the best sample flips that Tyler has used in his entire career. I also liked those electric guitar riffs that he brought in. Even though they were very simplistic, I do feel like in context of just the nuance of that production, they worked so well. Even thinking about the siren that comes in later into the song, it just added to that suspenseful, chaotic, uneasy energy that he tried to accomplish with that track in particular. And I love the ethereal chords on that song as well. My favorite instrumental on this album has to be Saint Chroma. And I think what I love about it so much is that, you know, he's juxtaposing these marching footsteps with these soft keys, and then we get a crazy beat switch that has a really cool bass drop, and then you're getting again this siren that starts to creep into the production. And I just love how the beat was able to go from light to dark back to light. Just that contrasting energy of tone was really special. And that's what I love about Tyler, the Creator, is that he's always able to play with our emotions and make us expect the unexpected. Another cool beat was Ratata, where you're getting this trunk rattling instrumental with extreme bass. Cool Pharrell influence when it came to some of the unorthodox synthesized sounds, that you're hearing on that production. I also want to speak about the transitions on this album. What he did from Ratata to Noid was perfection, and there's a lot of other really seamless song-to-song transitions that I thought was really well done. Another beat I want to talk about is Darling I. Definitely the brightest and most summertime sounding production on here. The synth lead is absolutely incredible and very upbeat. This sounds like, to me, it could have been a song that would have fit perfectly on the first side of Igor, on that happier side of that song. Love the old school synths, and also I felt like Judge Judy also had some more Igor-esque production. Another beat I want to talk about is I Killed You, where we have these very unique bongo drums that make up the heartbeat of that song. I love the myriad of energetic horns you're hearing throughout it as well. And then you get, again, the tempo slowing down, and then you get these sunnier chords. So very cool how multifaceted a lot of these beats are, and Tyler's been amazing at crafting these types of instrumentals, since you could argue Cherry Bomb, really. But let's go on to Sticky. All right, so this was a beat to me that was made to inflict migraines. That's kind of what it was for me. The whistle is utterly annoying from beginning to end. There's sounds of what seems like babies crying just spilling into the mix of this track. You're also getting these hardcore marching drums, and the beat sounds like a dumpster fire to me. If I'm being completely honest, I do like the horns that were sampled from Young Buck's Get Buck. That was one of the elements I enjoyed, but again, when you put everything together, it's just a noisy blender to me as an instrumental. One of the highlights, again, is Take Your Mask Off. One of the more minimalistic beats, but I love the 1970s soul sample. This is just one of the jazziest sounding songs in this album, and I loved every second of it. And then the last production highlight I want to mention is Like Him, where you're getting at the beginning, this stunning pop ballad that's driven by this piano and this sick drum crescendo and these emotive vocals from Tyler. And then we get this break that kicks off the synth lead, and it definitely has that gospel church vibe to it. Also love the glitchy esque synths on Balloon, and the I Want to Rock by Luke sample comes in and out of the mix. Cool fast tempo to that beat. And again, the extended piano and synth-based outro. I love a lot of the extended outros production-wise, and the one on the outro, I Hope You Find Your Way Home, was magical. So overall, production-wise, it was amazing. You can't expect anything less from Tyler, and to me, he just continues to evolve as a producer. Even if this wasn't as groundbreaking, or if it wasn't as much of a sonic detour as something like a Flower Boy or an Igor was, I appreciated how he brought so many different styles together sonically and even took some experiments. So amazing rating for the production. Let's move on to the replay value. This album is going to have tremendous replay value for me just because you're getting a variety of styles from Tyler. And not only that, I feel like he created another world, right? Like Chromakopia is its own universe. The same way that you can step into the 36 chambers or you can step into Astroworld, it really feels like you can step into Chromakopia and just engulf yourself in this world and the ideas that he's bringing to the table. When it comes to the track by track consistency, I do feel like this album is super fucking consistent. I think that there's a lot of songs that lean into more fall time, some songs that lean into more summertime. So this is an album that might be defined by certain seasons, and I think that's something that's cool about it, just the way that we felt similarly to something like Call Me If You Get Lost with the summertime vibes, or Flower Boy with the fall time vibes. That being said, there are two skips to me. There are two songs that I don't enjoy all that much, and those are Sticky and Judge Judy. I do feel like those songs don't really add to the overall theme, and maybe you could have done without them. But again, 2 songs out of 14 is not that bad of a ratio. So overall, I'm going to give the replay value an amazing rating, and the idea that there's really a personal journey to follow from Tyler's behalf makes it all that more special. But let me go into my overall thoughts. This album to me felt like a snapshot of Tyler's current mind, and what's really cool about it and what I admire about it the most is that he's just finding these creative and sometimes bizarre ways to really just speak his truth throughout the project. I think this is the strongest concept that he's ever put forth into an album, even though if I had to be a nitpicking fucker, there are a couple of songs that don't totally lend themselves to the overall arching themes of the album, in my opinion. But that being said, I do think it's the strongest concept he's ever put out. I do like that it's sort of this blend of different sonic palettes that he's brought to the table before, and that he took these risks of bringing in these, experimental samples and sort of going into some uncharted territory at times. And this album just proves that he keeps growing as an artist, as a producer, as an arranger and composer of music. And this just continues an excellent album run from Tyler, the Creator. He's one of those artists that, like, it's a sure bet that you're getting quality anytime that he creates an album. I think it's his most personal and mature album. It's one that fans are gonna hold close to their hearts, and it's one for the ages from Tyler. One of the best albums of 2024. But let me know down in the comments, guys, how do you feel about this album? How would you rate it using our scale? And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you guys do want to catch that album reaction, check out the link in the pinned comment or in our description. And if you are new to the channel, make sure to smash that subscribe button so you never miss another album review. There's a lot more on the way. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you soon. Peace out.